What's up, everybody? I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth.
And today we're going to be reviewing the interior in the 2024 Mazda CX-90. So the CX-90 replaces the CX-9. It's a bigger vehicle. It's a brand new platform. So many huge changes. I already did a full review on this vehicle as well, so you can watch that if you want to hear all the changes for this thing in particular. I mean, it's a radical change with the way they switched this compared to the old CX-9. But as far as the interior, they also are really pushing it up market. And this is the higher performing Turbo S version, and this is the top Premium Plus version of that. So this is a fully loaded one. It's about $60,000. But if you don't need the faster version, you can get most of this same stuff in a regular turbo version, and its Premium Plus trim for about $55,000, which puts it right in the main competition of the Hyundai Palisade and the Kia Telluride, the Honda Pilot, all those vehicles that we've been in a lot more recently here. And so as far as this interior, though, it definitely has a wow factor, I think, where, you know, you have the fun colors, and there's a bunch of different themes too, where you have this tan one here. There's also a beige, which has a hanging stitch on the dashboard with that color in particular. This one just has the regular stitching. Just the trim and everything, it all just seems pretty cool and very premium to me.
Yeah, I really like this color. The side padding in the doors where you put your elbow is like super plush and super padded. They also have this really cool suede-y Alcantara material, which is really nice, but it might get a little hairy here and there if you have like an animal or anything like that, but I think it is really cool.
Yeah, and it's great that they have all those options, and if you don't want all the crazy colors, they do have a normal black interior as well, which is very nice too. But yeah, getting back to the plush thing though, like even like down by your knees here, it's padded. So anyway, but as far as the other, you know, basic stuff here, first thing, sitting down in the seats of the CX-90, they're really soft and comfortable. This one has the mix of the leather and the ultra suede kind of stuff on it, but you can of course get regular leather seats, and even a base CX-90, by the way, has leatherette seats that are also still very nice. So even in the base one, which is about $40,000, you're still going to have a very nice feeling seat. But these ones are especially nice because they're heated and ventilated. Unfortunately, Mazda reserves the ventilation for only the very top trim of these CX-90s, so you're gonna have to, you know, pay top dollar if you want to have that cooled function, but they do work really nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I think that they work super well or not. I think ventilation still needs a lot of work in a lot of cars. I think it still works okay, but there are some ones that are a little bit better, but I do think these seats are super duper comfortable. The passenger seat is nice because it has all the power controls. It doesn't have anything like any lumbar support or anything, but you can move it up and down and back and forth, so really nice.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, the cooling I think works a little bit better if you're more sweaty and stuff, and there are some that certainly do a better job of cooling you. I think, yeah, you're right about these not getting super cold, but it does do something, and it's better than some others. Like Mercedes cooled seats, I feel like do even less than this does. So it just comes down to, yeah, I guess how sweaty you are and, you know, all that. But nice that they offer that, but yeah, maybe it's not something you have to have, especially if you're not used to having that feature. The steering wheel in the CX-90 is also really nice. I love, again, the colors here, the two-tone thing on this one, but it's just a really great wheel with a great 9/3 grip, little 10 and 2 notches, just a few buttons here on it, nothing too overwhelming, and actually really nice and simple compared to a lot of other vehicles these days, which have, you know, like a full calculator on the face of the steering wheel here. This one thankfully is simple. And the gauges here in the CX-90 are also really nice. Now here in these upper trims, you get this full 12.25 inch digital cluster here. And it's really high resolution. Doesn't have too much customization. It's the same kind of stuff you get in any other Mazda in the past several years, with that little thing on the right hand side there, basically just kind of cycling through your basic stuff. But the nice thing is though, they do change the appearance of them. So whenever you're in the adaptive cruise mode, it'll show you more of your driver assistance stuff, and there's sport modes, off-road modes, all that kind of stuff, which will change the look just for fun. And really nice to have that. You also do have a head-up display here in these upper versions as well, and that works well, except if you have polarized sunglasses, you can barely see it. So not a must-have feature again for that either, in my opinion, but nice to have nonetheless. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, you have this 12.25 inch touchscreen infotainment system, and it is actually touchscreen now. A lot of Mazdas in the past didn't have that function. It's touchscreen, but only whenever you're in Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Whenever you're in Mazda's system, you still have to use their controller, but I'm okay with that because the controller works really well for most of the functions in Mazda's thing. It's still a little harder than it needs to be to find radio stations and things like that, but once you have all your favorites saved with this star button down here, you can save anything, whether it's a phone number, radio station, you know, direction, anything like that, you can have saved with that favorites button. So once you have all those programmed in, then you just hit that and you scroll down to whichever favorite you want to hit, and that really takes a lot of the stress out of navigating navigating this thing with this little controller wheel. But again, whenever you're driving or stopped, you can use the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it's also wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto here in this bigger screen. When you go down to a lower trim of the CX-90 here, then you will get a 10.25-inch screen, and that is wired in Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And unfortunately for that one, it sounds like it doesn't have any touch capability for that screen either. So the only way you get this big screen that has all those nice features is in the Premium Plus versions of this and the Turbo and the plug-in hybrid. You got to go up to their top trims to get this screen, unfortunately. But even if you don't get the screen, at least you have, you know, the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in the other versions. And the controller wheel works okay. Anyone else who's had a Mazda with CarPlay in the past 5 years knows that you can still use the controller wheel. It's just a little more clumsy than just quickly pressing whatever you want on the screen there. But, you know, a really nice infotainment system nonetheless.
Without the Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto as well, if you're not thinking about that, the controller wheel is actually really nice, because at least for me, when I had a Mercedes, it was actually really way easier to use that than to think of like having to reach forward and press a touch screen or anything like that. It was so much easier to use this click wheel, so I love the click wheel, and it's right next to where you would put your arm if you were resting it anyways, if you were driving with one hand or something like that. So I love it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the Mazda owners that are in the comments of all my other Mazda videos, when I complain about the touch wheel, they also say that they love the scroller wheel, and it's something you get used to.
Yeah, it's somewhere you like rest your hand, so it's nice to be able to use it.
Yeah, so definitely give it a try for yourself, you know, before you make a decision on whether or not you like that. But another thing though is this screen is hooked up in these upper trims to this Bose 12-speaker stereo, and it sounds really good. It's one of the best stereo systems I've encountered in this segment. I think the only one that might be a little bit better is the Acura MDX Type S, which is actually a lot more expensive than even this, and that one has a more impressive system. But aside from that, this is really, really top notch. I love this stereo, and I'd say if you're someone who really loves music, the Mazda's gonna be one of the best choices for any segment they compete in. Basically, this Mazda Bose system is fantastic in everything they put it in. Moving down to the climate controls here, you know, it's just a row of easy little buttons and little toggle switches, very simple and straightforward there, and then just again the few buttons around your controller wheel, and that's it. And so it's actually a really clean looking interior for that reason as well, since there's not, you know, a bunch of clutter or weird designs or anything like that.
One thing I will give Mazda the biggest kudos for is, at least in this trim level that we have zero piano black plastic. Let's give a big round of applause to Mazda, because it's insane how much piano black plastic everybody uses. And right here, this is all black, and yes, it could get a little bit dusty, but it doesn't get scratched
or smudged or anything like that.
Right, and so it's a nice matte area here, so it's not shiny and scratchy, and it just looks nice, and it will stay looking nice unless you were to throw like 10 knives and really heavy keys down on it. I think it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, and it has a nice texture to it too. It's not just smooth, it's, you know, it feels a little more premium. And you can get some other nice materials as well. There's a aluminum you can get that's got some ridging to it and stuff in other trims. So there's some different options there for that as well, and it's great that they give you so many different diverse options and not just a couple different colors. So really well done for that. There's also lots of storage spaces here. You have huge bottle holders here on the doors. You have your 2 cup holders, a wireless charging pad, and this wireless charging pad is actually one of the better ones I've used. It actually held my phone in really well, and my phone almost always kept contact there on that charger. And a lot of other wireless chargers, you know, go around a corner, you do any kind of movement in the car at all, and your phone goes sliding one way or the other, and it goes off the charger. This actually was able to keep my phone charged up, and so I'd say it's one of the best wireless charging integrations I've seen in a car so far. Also, you have this center console here, and I love how it splits in the middle, so you know you can have the other person in the passenger seat keep their elbow down while you still access stuff in here, and you'll see that there's 2 USB-C jacks in there as well, and just, yeah, a really good amount of space I think up front here. You also have this really nice panoramic roof here in these upper trims, and then going into the back seat here in the CX-90. So there's a bunch of different seating configurations for these. It'll come down to which trim you're looking at as far as what options you'll have available to you for that second row. You can get a bench in certain trims. You can also get this captain's chair setup you see here with this console in the middle, or you can get the captain's chairs without the console in the middle, depending on, again, which trim you're at. So you can go into the configurator and build one for yourself, and, you know, see what options you would have for whatever you know, price segment you're looking at here for these. But anyway, so this one being a fully loaded one, it only comes here with the captain's chairs with the console, and it's a 6-seater configuration. I'll get into, there's actually 6, 7, and 8-seater configurations for these, depending on, again, the trim and options you get. But a little confusing, but anyway, the way this one's set up, it's very plush, of course, having that huge console there in the second row, and you see they have their own air vents, 2 more USB-C jacks. There are also heated and ventilated seats here for the second row, again, in these upper trims here, but I believe that's something that's reserved just for this Turbo S and that top Premium Plus trim. But nice that you have those, and your own climate controls and all that, and they also have their own pockets in the doors. They have sunshades there, and you know, just a good amount of space too. Me being 5'9", sitting behind myself, plenty of legroom there, and even if you slide that seat all the way forward, you still have enough space if you want to maximize the third row space. And moving on to the third row here, getting into it is actually a little harder than some of the others out there. So it still has a lever to it there, so you still have to use some muscle to, you know, get that seat out of the way. It's not quite as easy as some of the others. For example, the Hyundai Palisade, Kia Telluride, and Honda Pilot all have buttons that you can press, and even a little kid can press and get into that third row without having to, you know, be a muscular adult to, you know, haul that seat out of the way. So I'd say this is, you know, not one of the easiest ones. And even some of the other ones, like the brand new Toyota Grand Highlander, has a really heavily spring-loaded mechanism for its manual lever. So even that makes it a little easier. But this one is takes a little more muscle to get in there. But once you are in there, it's a good amount of space. That's one of the areas where they really improved, and you know, where the extra size of the CX-90 over a regular CX-9 from before really comes into play here. So again, me being 5'9", sitting behind myself, I have you know, just barely enough space there for my knees. Whenever I had some shoes on that had a little bit of extra height to them, I wasn't able to slide my feet underneath the seat there whenever it was all the way back. But if you want to move the second row forward a little bit, then you can have plenty of space there for even taller adults. And so it is an adult-sized back seat. You have a good amount of headroom, even for adults and all that. And this one, again, is a 2-seater configuration for that third row, but there is also a 3-seater third row configuration as well. So again, depending on which configuration you get, will dictate how much space you have back there too. But it's basically the same size bench. It's just that they've added an extra seatbelt in there and split it up a little differently, but it's the same kind of space back there. You don't get any kind of extra room with the 8-seater one or anything. Anyway, they have their own, you know, pockets in the doors there, air vents, there's a grab handle to get in and out, and their own USB jacks as well back there. Then moving on to the trunk space here in the CX-90, it's a good amount of space, pretty typical like any other crossover in this mid-sized 3-row segment. So, you know, a nice wide space, a decent amount of length there. You can have a few rolling suitcases standing up, something like that. Not a ton of space, but you do have a little bit of space underneath the floor there, but not a ton there either. And of course, if you don't need the third row, you can drop it down. It's really nice and easy with a little cloth pull lever there. Then it drops right down. You have a very roomy 2-row SUV if that's what you want to use these for as well. But anyway, that's all of our thoughts here on the interior of the CX-90. Overall, I think it justifies that higher price tag, again, especially since you're getting the extra performance, which again I do cover in the driving review, which I'll link here at the end. But I think this interior definitely does feel a lot nicer, especially compared to, like, we were just in the Pilot a few weeks ago with hard plastic everywhere, and that was also like, you know, 50 grand. That wasn't even a top trim. Those top trims are like 53 or something, pretty close to one of these. This is a way nicer interior that doesn't have the most space. I think the third row in the Pilot might be a tiny bit bigger, and like the Grand Highlander might be a tiny bit bigger, but I think this still takes the cake as the most premium vehicle in this segment, and it's really impressive.
I'd go for this all day for sure.
Yeah, it's impressive what Mazda's done here. So anyway, that's all of our thoughts here on the CX-90. Let us know your thoughts on it in the comments below. And yeah, thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.